This got sent in by our boy Tristan Myers.
T-Bone.
Hey, man.
Thanks,
Miss you, bro. Miss you, bro.
Yeah, no, he moved away. It's very sad. So his question, I got this, I think, right after our last episode. He said, got a question of the week for you. You guys always complain about the DCEU casting. It was a bit of a sledge there.
We don't miss you, man. Fuck you.
He basically asked, what's everyone's dream casting for the main characters in that universe? So I sent this on to the boys in that text. What was it? Pretty much that night, and I could pretty much hear Ben stiffen up from
in more ways than one.
Yeah, in more ways.
I did not sleep that night. So I was like, oh, why have I never done this?
Going to his room, there's like a scribble all over.
And I mean, red yarn connecting everything.
To be fair, we don't normally do these kind of fan casting type things. But and so I was almost sure that you'd be like, nah, that's not really our wheelhouse to do this casting. But you fucking took a hold of this.
Yeah, I couldn't wait. I stay away from this stuff just because it hurts too much to make these, dreams and know they're never going to happen. Because the DCU is such a weird, shambling mess at the moment. So I was thinking we go through one character at a time and each say our picks.
Let's do it.
Starting with Batman. Connor, what do you think?
That was the hardest one, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest. Mine.
Just say Armie Hammer, George.
I did mine. So I specifically didn't put Armie Hammer for any of these because if you put him for Superman, then it's just Cavill.
Shit.
So for Batman, I went pretty uninventive John Hamm.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think he's definitely got Bruce Wayne down. Like he just kind of seems like that guy that oozes class. And for me, Batman has to kind of be big enough to like be imposing. I always thought it was kind of a miracle that Christian Bale was able to get big enough to kind of fill out that suit. And I really liked the way that Ben Affleck looked as Batman in Batman v Superman. Not in Justice League.
Not Fat Man.
But so I think that there's some legitimacy to having like a big Batman, and I think that he kind of hits all those markers. He's got like the deep enough voice, to naturally pull off that character.
He's
talented.
He's often thrown around, but he's like the prototypical like Alex Ross. Yeah. Painterly Batman. Like he looks great.
He's got a 50s dad vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
slick
like
back hair, and he can also play unhinged. Well, in Mad Men, wasn't he a bit of an alcoholic? Like,
he's a douchebag.
I mean, I can see him. He can get that Batman. Like he can get that, as you said, that class,
tortured soul,
that really slick, and then that facade behind the facade, really tortured soul. Yeah.
There was a BBC series that he did with Daniel Radcliffe. I think it's called The Doctor's Notebook or something. Which I watched. God, this would have had to been like maybe 7, 8 years ago. But he plays kind of unhinged in that. And he does it really well. And that was to this day, I think is one of my favorite John Hamm performances. It's also just a really cool. If I can think of the title, I think it's called The Doctor's Notebook. It's
I think you're right. Yeah.
The Russian thing, anyways. Anyone that hasn't seen it, go check it out. So yeah, John Hamm is my pick.
Good choice. So this one's a little bit weird because I've been obsessed with the idea of a Batman of the Future movie.
Yeah.
And this article came up in my feed in Facebook and was like, there was fan casting for bringing Michael Keaton back as old Bruce Wayne, because Batman of the Future set like 50 years, in the future, and Bruce Wayne is kind of like, he's like what's his name? Arthur? What's the butler's name?
Alfred.
Albert.
To Terry McGinnis.
He's kind of like, but he's got that Bruce Wayne like mentorship behind it, which makes it a different dynamic. He's the one in the control room whilst Batman's like the young Batman's off. But Bruce Wayne, he's kind of like, he's manipulating this kid. And there's
what was that old really animated one where he's in a wheelchair? Is that the one that you're talking about?
He's not in a wheelchair, but he's old Batman.
Yeah. Oh, he's got a cane. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I would love to see that continuity, and you don't even need to really reference the old ones. You can just bring it in, and I think I would love to see something done there. And Michael Keaton, he's just so good. Bring him back. And he can be such an arsehole. Like in The Founder, he's such an arsehole. Like, can you imagine him fucking with this kid? Like,
and
there's a really interesting relationship could form from that.
That's such a cool element of Batman that we rarely see in the movies because, he's the hero, is that he is kind of a manipulator. And like he's a broken dude in that series as well. So that could be really interesting.
Yep.
So unsurprisingly, I put a lot of thought into all of these. And I have two options for some of them. I'm sorry.
I did the same.
And I really tried to boil down every one of these characters into their main essence or what they mean to me, maybe. So for Batman, who's a character I have mixed feelings about, mainly in the way he's portrayed sometimes. But Batman from the comics is someone who's all about intensity. And so someone who I've not been able to get out of my head for the role. Both of my picks here, I'm going to admit, too skinny for the role, so that knocks out one of your big criterion things, whatever. But
I've never seen him so flustered.
Criteria.
So ever since I saw Searching, which is just a 90-minute movie about John Cho being a detective who is so laser focused on saving a child. It's his child, of course, but I haven't been able to get his face out of my mind for a Batman. Because we've never seen that detective Batman done really distinctly like that. And I don't know, there's something about him. Like I said, he's kind of a skinny guy, but
Agent Bruce Wayne as well. That would be really cool. That'd be something really different. You could give it a different spin.
Yeah.
Like you could even recast someone else takes the mantle or do something. But
yeah, well, and also just Batman being a ninja, I guess he doesn't always have to be a full-on tank of a man. But I think just based on his performance in that movie alone, I think he really sold something like that.
Like Wayne Enterprises skyscraper in Shanghai or something. Like, that would be so cool, man.
That could be fucking interesting.
I'm into that.
And my other pick is Dan Stevens from Legion. He played Beast in the Beauty and the Beast remake. This is a guy who has
George, you're looking up Dan Stevens.
Yeah, no, please. He's one of my favorite actors. He's got this wild-eyed intensity. Like he can do crazy like no one else. And I kind of like Batman when he's crazy is just visible behind the eyes a little bit because Batman is a crazy dude.
He's just a little too Draco Malfoy. He's got that weasel look.
You have to see him in action.
See, I knew that you were going to be a little bit more nuanced in your picks, but I got to say that like I can't. Like I'm just imagining him in a Batman suit, and it's just not working.
My Batman ones are the most different than the characters been portrayed before. I'll admit. So I'm not. I'm expecting them to be controversial, but Dan Stevens is an actor I really love. He played Legion. I would really like to see him bring something different to that character. Next up, of course, is Superman. Connor, what do you think?
I had a bit of trouble with this one. There's a lot of guys, and I looked at a couple of lists, like who could replace Henry Cavill type
There's
thing.
2 or 3 in this room.
Exactly, right?
Yeah. They're over there.
Everyone that seems to go for Superman just goes for a Henry Cavill lookalike. So Armie Hammer is thrown around left, right, and center.
For Batman?
No, for
and Superman and Wonder Woman, strangely enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a couple of other people that just they've got the same look, the chiseled jaw and all that kind of stuff. But none of them, or not none of them, but so few of them have anything in the way of kind of like acting talent that would make me really step out, like go like, oh fuck yeah. So the person that I picked, I'm not really set on any of these, but I picked Oscar Isaac. Just because I think he's really talented. And
like a Mediterranean Superman.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the whole boy from Kansas thing. That was my big kind of my big question about that. Like, he's meant to be like.
So the record, I've ignored race for most of my picks. So if we keep getting hung up on this, we're going to be here all night.
Yeah, I mean, like.
But carry on. It's a good pick.
Yeah, I like Oscar Isaac.
In terms of,
but again, the person also needs to be big enough to like fill out the suit. Like both Batman and Superman, out of anyone, need to be imposing and kind of regal. And I like Oscar Isaac how he kind of seems to pull that off.
No, I honestly, in terms of intensity and like the way he's a chameleon. His roles, I feel like are quite distinct from each other. Like you've got Poe, who's like got his thing going on, and then you got his character in Ex Machina, so different. I think, and then Annihilation, that he's doing his own thing there. He can do Noble and what Superman needs to be done. I don't know if he's quite got the look for it and the stature, but in terms of chops, he's got it.
Hell yeah.
Mine was. I didn't realize this was so standard. I was like, yeah, this is a pretty novel choice, George. Army Hammer. He's just got that imposing. He's like 6'3", 6'2", something like that. He's got the broad shoulders. And he just doesn't have a fucked up mustache mouth. So he wins.
Arnie Hammer is just Henry Cavill. Like, I mean,
they are the same person.
Henry Cavill's not a bad pick though. So
I mean, no, he's not. And I think a lot of the kind of failure of, or I won't even say failure of Henry Cavill.
In look, they're very similar, but in portrayal, like if you think of like the brothers in the Social Network versus he's very like I just feel like he can. Armie Hammer, I enjoy watching him on screen.
I've never watched him play anyone else other than the brothers.
He crops up here and there,
as a different character. What's that one that he played with Henry Cavill? It's that
the guy
Man
Richie
from
one.
Uncle.
The Man from Uncle.
Man from Uncle. Just this kind of like straight-faced Russian, big imposing guy. I felt like it was very similar to what he played in The Lone Ranger. I didn't think. To me, I don't think he has an extraordinary amount of range.
I'm guessing you haven't seen Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah.
Oh no, I haven't. That's right.
He's a terrific actor,
and that's put him back in the mix.
And I was about to say, I'm not saying actor.
Yeah, I'm not saying he has a huge amount of range either, but he's perfectly like the way he is pretty perfect. For Superman.
And I think, and maybe you could put this down to Fincher, but he played two very different people in The Social Network. Like they were two different characters, and you knew which one was which. One was the leader, one was. So maybe that was David Fincher, maybe that was Armie Hammer. Anyway, I think he's a cool choice, and I think he's got the look.
Yeah. So I did not go in the direction you were thinking. Like I went a much more obvious way, I guess, given what you were saying before. My first pick for Superman is both these guys are just kind of the the fucking. I'm looking for someone who's an Ubermensch, someone who, when they are in the role of Superman, is someone who looks like a human god. Mm-hmm. So first up, I picked Matt Bomer from he's another one that's
the
Magic Mike movies, and he does look a lot like Henry Cavill. I gotta say,
this is my thing. Like Arnie Hammer, Bowman, like they are two of the most thrown around names next to Cavill, and they look exactly like him. And I feel like that's why I didn't include him.
So Matt Bomer, I've just never been able to get out of my head in the role since I heard that he had attested for it, I think. Mm-hmm. And again, like I said before, I don't think Cavill was a bad choice, so I don't think someone like him is either. But my other pick is Henry Golding from A Simple Favor and Crazy Rich Asians. He was the male lead in that one. He is another one who just has that look where you're like, holy fuck, this guy is chiseled from stone. Yeah. And both these guys just have like charm to spare, and I think that's something that Cavill's been criticized for not bringing to the role. Not that he doesn't have in real life, obviously, but I would really love to see someone come into this role and really win people over.
He's certainly big enough to do it.
Yeah, Golding's a huge dude.
Fucking chiseled as shit.
Yeah.
It is funny because when we said this, when we first kind of talked about doing this fan casting thing, I made the joke that I'm just going to make all the white people mixed race and like change Wonder Woman to a man, and Cyborg's going to be, all this different kind of stuff. And it seems like you've actually gone that like your casting would cause so much issues. Not that I'm saying it like that it shouldn't, but like, or
what?
That it should. Sorry. It's the other way around. Like, or that it should, but I'm just thinking like in a practical sense, that would, the internet would just like fold in on itself.
I was hoping
an Asian Superman.
I was hoping you guys weren't going to bring it up this much, to be honest, because I like not race blind casting, but kind of racially open casting in characters that don't have to be a specific race for a particular reason. Which
is why I kind of brought it up with Oscar Isaac and that, because I feel like the whole Midwestern or the Midwest Clark Kent from, the middle of white America, seems like it kind of seems a bit weird to have him.
Anyone can be a country boy, though.
I mean, like, technically, yes. I mean,
Yeah,
you're certainly not wrong. He's an alien. He can look at like whatever the hell he wants. But I guess it's just like there's such an ingrained image in my mind of Superman.
No, I think it's cool. I think diversify it up, man. And I didn't think about it in that way. I'm going for a lot more of the archetypal look. But that can deviate, and we've seen that before. So I think it's cool that you're thinking outside the box.
So closing up the Trinity, Wonder Woman.
So just before we get to that, there was a oh no, that was for Batman. I saw on one of these like websites that was talking about who should play what. Timothy Chalamet, someone put forward for Batman. And I thought that was the most fucking bizarre, and like they really made a case for it. They said
fantastic Robin
is the right age and has the right demeanor to play the Cape Crusader. I was like, in what fucking world?
When he trips over and breaks both wrists.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was such a bizarre thing to see on one of these.
That's
things.
a troll. That's a troll cast.
No, it was like in a serious article. Well, let's say in quotation marks.
Serious listicle.
Wonder Woman. So for me, I will say I quite like Gal Gadot in that. I think she's a little bit wooden in it. But
wooden or woman?
Wooden.
Wonder Wooden.
Wooden. But overall, I quite like her. Oddly enough,
get him in trouble.
The other two, if I was going to switch up the casting, again, very run of the mill choices for me. One is Scarlett Johansson, and Scarlett Johansson is not only like I've just loved her forever, but also when I think of female kind of action star, she's really risen up in the ranks as someone that has been willing to take on that mantle. Say what you will about the divisiveness of the casting when she was cast in Ghost in the Shell. I thought that kind of suit her brand of the action hero. So yeah, I think Scarlett Johansson could be cool on that, but also someone else that has kind of taken on that mantle as well, which is Charlize Theron. And I mean, if we're talking about intensity and someone that just kind of, Wonder Woman has become this kind of symbol of woman power, and if there's someone that just fucking oozes that shit, it's Charlize Theron.
I think she's a cool pick. Yeah.
Yeah, she could just absolutely nail this.
Yeah. I've kind of tried to. I know this is all fantasy, but we all have our own parameters, I guess. I've tried to kind of stick to people who are young enough to stay in these roles for like an existing franchise. But otherwise, I think she's a fucking awesome pick, Georgie.
I chose two here. First choice was Ana de Armas from Blade Runner 2049. She's a Cuban actor, and she has just this really angelic look.
Yeah,
she's back here, and I think that you could really
for people on the podcast, when he says back here, it doesn't
just mean
the poster behind
the poster.
No, we've got her in the back.
yeah, my porn stash in the corner, like a magazine.
Oh, no.
No, fuck off. Why'd you do this?
Why did you're the one that took it to the...
I'm running with the gag, man. I'm running with the gag.
Just immediate betrayal. Sorry, let's move on.
I think that the angelic look that she would bring with the really strong physical presence that they could bring through is something that I would really like to see on screen. And I just think, I think she's I really liked her in Blade Runner 2049, and I haven't seen her in much else, so I'd like to see her in more. And then the other choice I have is Denai Guerrera from from Black Panther, Okoye.
Yeah, she's an awesome rising star.
Mm-hmm. I think like that scene in Infinity War, spoilers, when Black Panther is like melting and she turning to dust and she's holding his hand, like her reaction is by far the best, man. And she is such a badass in those movies. I would like to see more of that physical presence of that character or that actor, sorry.
Yeah.
So I think those are my two choices. So quite distinct. One a lot more sort of dainty, angelic that would have that physical, you'd have to inject that, and somebody who would from the get-go have more of that physical presence, but just a really convincing portrayal.
And this is a complete segue, but just going to challenge you on the most impactful of the floating away. How's that not Robert Downey Jr. and poor little Spider-Man?
Robert's pretty stoic in that scene.
But
more the reaction from the character
I
than the
found,
audience reaction.
For me, I found his kind of reserved. But
I think it was more about Spider-Man.
Oh no, that was. But I think I don't know
than Tony Stark.
That was more impactful to me. Like watching him just kind of look away in disbelief. Like his whole thing was about don't get this kid hurt, and his just kind of utter disbelief that it's fine, that it's happened, that he died.
I guess
I don't know. This is such a segue. Sorry, I wasn't going to let that.
No, I think just hers, just she in her eyes, she just had complete disbelief that this guy that is my number one priority has just vaporized.
Sells it in half a second. My picks for Wonder Woman are strikingly similar to yours, Georgie.
Yep.
And on a side note, I wanted to cast Anna de Armas somewhere in this list, but we only have one woman to cast, which is such a bummer. But
so
I picked first up a very obvious pick, someone who I was kind of wanted to get the role before they announced when Gal Gadot got it. Jamie Alexander, Lady Sif from the Thor movies. I think is again an obvious choice because she is playing a very Wonder Woman-like character in that Wonder Woman light. But I think she just sells it so well, and we got so little of her in those movies. I think it would be cool to see her as a very stereotypical version of the character, and also an actor who blew me away twice last year, Cynthia Erivo. She was the soul singer from El Royale. What's that movie called?
Oh yeah.
Bad Times at the El Royale. And she was also the late addition to the crew in Widows. So when I think of Wonder Woman, I think of two things. I think of strength, power, and warmth. And I think this woman in these two roles conveyed both of those things so well, and so in so very different roles. Her in Widows, she's like a physical. My God, she looks more badass than most of the guys in these movies.
Intense.
And I think I've always thought that was something that I felt that Gal Gadot maybe just didn't quite get across. Was just pure that kind of
warmth.
Yeah, it was just a little bit wooden, as I said.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think she I'm not saying she did a terrible job, but there was something that I could have felt
her line readings are pretty.
She ticks the physicality box. She doesn't tick that warmth box that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I would say that Cynthia Erivo does both better. Next up, I have Aquaman here.
So, George, I think we took a very kind of similar vein on this. I just kept Momoa.
Was that cowardly vote?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? No.
I don't know. I really liked the casting of Momoa.
He's really made the role his own.
I don't know how. I honestly, I don't know how else you can do it.
I think that out of the, it's kind of ticked all the boxes for me. In terms of if I was going to go back to the kind of the original stylizing of Aquaman, I would think of someone like Chris Pratt or something like that. But I don't see him doing a better job than Momoa. I think that is really spot on casting.
Yeah, I think it's insane that the fact that Aquaman's the highest grossing, the fact that Aquaman grossed more than Justice League means that they did something right there. And I really don't think you can do Aquaman. It's so hard to get right. I can't believe they got it right.
It would be like trying to recast Iron Man at this point. Not quite. Sorry, not quite.
I think more. I think even tougher than that.
Really?
Maybe. I mean, it's just so.
Because I said that and then immediately regretted it. Don't follow me down this.
I don't know.
don't come up on this hill and die with me.
I just think Iron Man could have worked with a few other people. Aquaman is just that much harder. The sandbox that you're in is just that much harder to get right.
I think Iron Man is such a downy character.
It is.
It feels like that. I mean, everyone kind of says that he is Tony Stark type thing. I
don't know. I just can't think of anyone else that you could do.
So I agree with you guys to an extent, although I don't think the casting of Momoa was done in any way to try and capture the actual character of Aquaman. There's no resemblance to the comics. None. So I went with someone who I thought would be better at being the king of Atlantis. I look for someone extremely, regal and a much more serious version of the character. Not someone who I think could headline a film, because I don't think, my version of the DC universe, they're not making an Aquaman movie. That was a weird choice in the first place. So I went with Lee Pace because I think he can do King Lee.
Yeah,
I think he can do it well, and I want to see more of this guy because I think he's been really underserved by
Captain Marvel, but
oh yeah, I mean he is so little. But I'm thinking more of like Thranduil from The Hobbit. Not that style, but just.
He does have that kind of, I know what you mean, it's almost ethereal grace to him.
So I guess my main point was thinking, like, what if these movies go down the path one day, there's rising tensions between the Amazons and Atlantis, and they go to war. Like, I want to see these two, like, warlords, and I think he could do that.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
And next up we have The Flash.
This is a weird one.
Uh-oh.
I picked Daniel Radcliffe.
Okay.
Just because I think that, oddly enough, the two actors that look very similar, Elijah Wood and Daniel Radcliffe, they've both, subsequent to their kind of main franchise films, have gone on to a little bit more wackier characters throughout their career. And I thought that they've both really pulled them off very well. And I love Daniel Radcliffe when he does his weirder stuff. Like, I think he's, particularly he's very self-effacing, and he obviously has like really good comedic timing, and this almost kind of like awkward young person type vibe. And I think that would work really well from what I know of The Flash. And I think he would do a far better job of it than Ezra Miller. I don't really like Ezra Miller as the Flash.
You must have seen Swiss Army Man based on what you were just saying.
No, and it's one of those ones I know I need to get it to it.
Fucking amazing. It's just it's based on the compliments you were putting on him, which I completely agree with. I'm like, the only place I've seen him do all of this is in Swiss Army Man.
Incredible film.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the BBC series that I was mentioning before, the one about the Russian doctor, he kind of does that as well. Like, I don't know. His career post Harry Potter has just really impressed me. So I think he could do a really good Flash.
That's a fun pick.
I thought of that pick.
Oh, did you?
But I thought of it first.
Yeah.
But then I went with, why don't we get authentic with this shit and go for Usain Bolt, the fastest man on earth.
We can skip this one. Ben, you go.
Let's do this.
That's dumb. Ben, just give us.
You know what? I had such a problem with this. I quite like Ezra Miller in this, and after seeing We Need to Talk About Kevin, I haven't seen that much of him on screen, and I'd like to see more of him. So
do you not remember seeing him in
Fantastic
Beasts?
Yeah, I've erased that. I've erased that from my mind.
You do now, so Ben,
he's barely in that fucking movie, bro.
He's a main character in it.
A main character for about a minute.
So I was just looking at my picks here. I think what I've actually done is cast a Barry Allen and a Wally West, which is kind of the more the grown-up Flash, the original Flash, and kind of the younger, funnier one. So for Barry Allen, I've got here Alexander Skarsgård, who I mostly just wanted to cast as anyone in this universe.
Is he too big though?
No, he looks like a runner. He's very lithe looking, I think.
He's tall though.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a good runner. I think you got to cast someone who can actually run, which Ezra Miller cannot. You guys remember him in Justice League with that weird like loping?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Let's go again on that, Ezra.
Yeah, and I think he kind of has a good Barry Allen look. And for Wally West, I went with Zac Efron for some reason. I don't remember why, but I just think
I looked at him as well to pull a George moment.
I think he could.
Me too.
He would just work so well in an ensemble piece. This is a guy who, we all knew initially as being the High School Musical guy, kind of a joke, and then he's kept giving these performances. I'm like, this guy's so funny.
He's funny, and do you know what? He's actually got some pretty serious acting chops.
Totally. I can't wait for that movie whose title I will never know, Extremely Vile and Shockingly Wicked or whatever it's called, the Ted Bundy movie.
That looks bizarre.
I'm keen to see him in that.
Yeah.
So that's me for The Flash. Next up, Cyborg.
Very stock standard. I went Michael B. Jordan.
Cool.
I don't think there's any explanation needed on that. He's kind of a major star, and he fits the
you
profile.
want him in here somewhere.
Yeah.
I went.
There aren't a lot of choices for black actors in this ensemble, so a lot of people are calling for him to be Superman, but I don't see him as Superman, and it has nothing to do with the color issue that a lot of people have made us think about. It's more that I just don't like I just when his kind of, I've never seen him in a role that makes him seem like Superman. I don't know how to describe it.
I think maybe when he's older, he could step into those shoes. I haven't seen him kind of play that type of character, but yeah.
I had an interesting challenge here with the Green Lantern and Cyborg decision. So I had 3 actors kind of rotating through these, but I've ended up on John Boyega for Cyborg.
Cool.
I think I would love to see him in a superhero movie, and he can create that vulnerability that Cyborg needs. I feel like he just has the chops to make that happen, and he's big enough. He's got that size and the breadth to make that physicality work for him. So I would really like to see him in a superhero film.
I didn't think of him for anything. He's a great pick. That dude is a movie star through and through. Ever since Attack the Block.
I've got to rewatch that.
What did I watch recently? I think this is after you, off the back of your recommendation. I don't think I ever told you.
Detroit?
Detroit, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, what a fucking movie.
He's so good in that, isn't he?
Oh,
I've only heard good
he is
things.
spectacular. Actually, everyone
nice.
in that is really spectacular.
Nice.
But
He's so young Denzel in that film. It's
God, he is,
so
isn't he?
brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I got to watch that.
That's a
yeah, check it out, man.
distressing film, but
And
a good one.
it got surprisingly little coverage. I think.
Very little.
Yeah, it just kind of came and went, and I reckon that's one that people need to pay a little bit more attention to.
So speaking of for Cyborg, I thought for one of mine, John David Washington, Denzel's son, who we just saw in Black Klansman.
Great choice.
I think that
I had him in this.
Yeah,
I always figured
nice.
him as a little bit. Oh yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that would work.
I don't know. There's a depth to that dude that I think could be really good for this character who is kind of a tortured soul, kind of the Frankenstein's monster of the team.
He showed he could do that in Black Klansman for sure.
And I'd like to see what he could do. On the other side of that character, kind of more of the jokey Teen Titans version, I thought Donald Glover would be so fun to have in this universe.
God, wouldn't he though? What a fucking! I can't believe I didn't even think of Donald Glover.
And he
this.
could do the end credits rap for the movie, which would be sick. So yeah, this would be a different interpretation to that one.
Yeah, that's much better.
And just side note here, Cyborg is one of the least needing to be recast characters. I think he was one of the worst executed in Justice League, but I think they found a really good actor for him.
I agree. He wasn't
didn't
given
get an
much to work
opportunity.
with, right?
Yeah. Next up, Green Lantern.
So, for this one, I put someone that I thought had a good mix of kind of superhero and comedic elements. So I picked John Cho.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I figured that I thought that he'd do really well in that. I think he's got the comedic chops. That's where he comes from, and that's where most people know him.
Yeah.
And so I can really see him, blending, someone with serious acting chops and someone that I just really enjoy seeing on screen with that witty level of humor.
Yeah.
Which I think Ryan, to be honest, I think Ryan Reynolds was really well cast as Green Lantern. I just think that was horrifically executed.
I think he was very poorly cast. And I don't think
That's
John
not the Green
Cho's...
Lantern I know, yeah.
I don't think John Cho's much of a Hal Jordan, but I think you've maybe unwittingly come across a perfect Kyle Rayner, who I think was the 4th Green Lantern in continuity, who was around for a long time for some big Justice League runs. And I think he'd be pretty spot on for that.
Yeah, that guy. You got the 4th best Green Lantern nailed.
No, he's the 3rd best Green Lantern.
Thank you, man.
So I grew up on the Justice League cartoon with John Stewart.
John Stewart, yeah.
And so that's Green Lantern for me.
So John Stewart has to be the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So there we go. Benny, Green Lantern. So I had initially in my head Idris Elba. I thought he would be really cool. But then I thought John David Washington, I'd really like to see him. He was just so good in Black Klansman. Once again, just another guy I want to see in a superhero movie. Simple as that. And he can do that stoic thing that Green Lantern had. He was he wasn't like a comedic like a Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. It was a completely different character.
He's kind of
he was a guardian. He was he just held his own. He was like a badass.
He was bad cop.
I should say I have no real kind of affinity with Green Lantern, so I'm kind of shooting in the dark here. And my impression of Green Lantern was always kind of the like a little bit like the Flash, like a bit kind of witty and that.
I think he's like a guardian of the universe. I think
he's a
got
cop.
like
He's a space cop.
yeah, he's kind of like he's got a
bit
lot
more
on his
serious.
shoulders. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting because I really have no.
And again,
kind of frame
it
of reference
depends.
for
It
that.
depends which one you pick.
I mean, there's fucking 8 of them, as he just
Apparently,
said.
yeah.
So I mean, take your pick.
So for me, the kind of guy who's really fit into the role in the animated universe that's really stuck with me is Nathan Fillion. He's played him a lot of times. So I really have that kind of cocky flyboy, funny guy
work,
in my head.
100%.
So he's not who I'm picking, George.
He can work.
He-
Connor.
No, he does
Martian
work.
Manhunter.
He does work because he does play the character. So when I thought cocky flyboy, I'm like, who have we seen play a fucking great cocky flyboy? Oscar Isaac. I think he should be in here somewhere, and I think he could really work as that kind of funny guy who you can see is taking it seriously underneath.
He's got that Poe Dameron like kind of.
Yeah, and like I said, I would just want him somewhere in here. So next up, getting towards the end, Martian Manhunter.
I didn't pick anyone for
Fair enough.
this means nothing to me.
I got Guy Pearce here.
Pearce.
I thought he's just the guy who popped out. I can see him with the full makeup on. I mean, we've seen it in Prometheus. So
he can sit in the chair. He's a bit of a chameleon. That's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think of anyone else, and this seemed to just immediately pop into my head. So
okay, I went with so Manhunter's he's a pretty serious dude. He's kind of a sort of monotone. He's lost all of the other Martians. He's the last of his kind, or sometimes. And I wanted someone who could really bring that intensity to the role. I thought of Mahershala Ali, who
fuck, he'd be a good Green Lantern as well. He'd be a good Jon Stewart.
Yeah, but in particular, I thought he does have an otherworldliness about him, and I reckon he could just be such a great presence in that alien role.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like his speech at the Oscars,
his
he
voice,
had
especially
that otherworldliness. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
that presence.
And the best part is this character has not been cast in any films, so this could happen.
I'd love to see that.
So next up, Shazam. Did anyone do?
No,
I like who they have, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's me all
I'm
done
so
there.
keen for that movie. Well, I got a couple more here. So
I've got Joker and Lex Luthor.
Go. So for Shazam,
I got Seth Rogen.
some people. So the guy who I wanted for Shazam before he got cast was Terry Crews because I thought he could do that
Fuck.
exuberant man-child, larger than life.
Yeah.
Like he's the biggest dude in the world, but he's a child, and I'm like, that's
that would
really
be
fun. And then in that vein,
And he's
I
jacked
thought,
as fuck.
yeah, and in that vein again, I thought John Cena, I think, could also bring that same energy.
Totally.
So I
his comedic
cool.
timing's
I mean, to be
on
honest,
point.
and this almost sounds too convenient, but The Rock could pull that off as well. I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. Yeah. He's Black Adam though.
Yeah, well, sorry.
the one role we're not recast.
Yeah.
So Joker, Connor.
I had a couple here.
Joker. What other ones have we got?
The Joker and Lex
Joker and
Luthor
Lex
is the only-
Luthor. I said this before we went in.
So
Hurry
I've,
up, George.
I've actually got 4. One of them is more of a joke than the others.
4.
My joke was Ben Schwartz, just as like
That'd be awesome.
yeah.
I
But
like.
I don't think he could I don't think he could play evil enough. Like I've never seen Ben Schwartz as anything but lovable.
But I think he could play
He could play manic.
comedic and manic to the point where it is scary. Like contextually.
I don't know. I've just never seen him do it. So I just can't. I really can't.
The milkman in
conceptualize
Jake and Amir is pretty fucking evil.
More milk.
Or even it could be a more lighted-hearted Joker. I think he could really do it.
Yeah. Also, this is someone that I just thought should be in here somewhere. Adam Driver.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely can play kind of evil and tortured. And I think he's got the chops behind him.
Way too intense as the Joker, man.
Yeah. Well, that's my one
Like
hesitation.
He'd be like the deadpan Joker.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
telling really serious jokes.
But the person that I think could really actually kill this is Jake Gyllenhaal.
I need to say that. That's my pick.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because just him, the two roles that I've seen him in that just make me absolutely positive they could do it is his most recent one in Velvet Buzzsaw and also in what was that? What was Babe?
Yeah. The big alien or genetically modified
Pig.
kid. What was that movie called?
Fuck.
What was that movie called, George?
The
Okja?
big pig?
Okja?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him in
I
that.
served a purpose
Totally.
today.
Yeah.
Those two. I think like his kind of almost like bizarre, crazy performance. I think like could be perfectly translated into the Joker,
especially when he gets real skinny, like in Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler,
yeah, he would be creepy. He's definitely who I think would really suit that role.
Yeah, the only other person that I could think of that could just really play an eccentric villain, and again it's almost too easy, is Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of just seems perfectly in his wheelhouse. He loves getting on makeup and acting crazy.
More of a Riddler, maybe.
Yeah.
Did you find one, Georgie?
Yes. I went with something. Like, I thought long and hard about this for about 42 seconds, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to do something a little more grotesque, and somebody that made a huge impression of me in that David Fincher TV series. Mindhunters was a guy called Happy Anderson. Now he's also in Bird Box, that guy on the lake where he's that crazy guy, and he's just more of this gluttonous kind of. He can just be a different type of Joker than we've seen, and maybe someone just a little more repulsive, and you can still have that psychotic, murderous vibe, but just come at it from a bit of a different angle. And he just really impressed me. He's made a big impression.
Sounds like he'd be a good Professor Pig.
Yeah, I think that's probably
more
perfect
obscure
casting.
Batman villain, maybe.
No, he'd be like the Penguin.
The Penguin.
The Penguin's more of like a business guy arsehole, though. Arms dealer.
Maybe.
And he's very, very imposing.
What made you think of him?
Or for all the reasons I mentioned previously. He made a big impression. He made a big impression.
Oh, okay.
And he's got that. He's just got that evil, psychotic, nihilism to him.
So Lex Luthor, this is
Luthor.
Did you say yours?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, mine was Connor's. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, nice.
Lex Luthor is probably again one of the ones that I went a little bit safer on. So with some, with people that have played villains and are very good at playing villains. Obviously Ben Mendelsohn. Came up as on the top of that. I think
he's got hair, you idiot.
Yeah, the great thing about hair is it can go away, as I know all too well.
I don't know. I don't know what that's all about.
I don't know, man.
Keep on looking, bro.
I've seen your dad.
He's fucking healthy head of hair.
Ben Mendelsohn or Ralph Fiennes. I think could both, and Ralph Fiennes doesn't have hair, so there you go.
Yeah.
I think they both could play that kind of really sinister character with that kind of sense of extreme intelligence behind them.
Yeah,
particularly Ralph Fiennes.
This was the hardest one for me to cast by a mile. I don't know why. I spent like an hour on this. I looked at dozens and dozens of people, and one thing I did realize while doing it was that I this is fucked up. I really like Jesse Eisenberg in the role. Not necessarily in the role as portrayed, or as it was written, but
he put his own stamp on it for sure.
Yeah, and I just think it was a really interesting performance, and I would like to see him have a go. He was my favorite part of Justice League when he showed up at the end, and isn't it time we had a league of our own? I'm like, that's the only thing I'm keen for coming out of this is him forming a little villain society. But I did have to pick someone, and I'm so ashamed that at all the people I looked at and how funny I think it is that everyone, when they were casting Lex Luthor, they're like, oh, it's got to be what's his name from Breaking Bad?
Oh, Bryan Cranston.
Because he's bald. Yeah, I'm like, but after everyone I looked at, I ended up picking a bald guy myself. But it's not because of that. But it's Corey Stoll from Ant-Man and House of Cards.
He'd be really good.
I think he brings such an interesting presence in Ant-Man. I think he's one of the better MCU villains and really unsung because he is this really slick kind of business guy with just this slight hint of insanity in there that I think could work, something similar to that, could work really well in the role of Lex Luthor. Someone who can be really charming.
And somebody who knows their stuff. In both House of Cards and that, he felt like he knew, he had the intellect.
Absolutely, yeah. And he feels like someone who could work well with like, reporters and stuff. Like he could be a presidential candidate or something,
Definitely.
which Lex Luthor is at times. And he's also huge. He's a big dude, which I think can help with the role of Lex Luthor. Like he's meant to be in some ways the ideal human.
Opposite. What do you think about someone like Peter Dinklage? If we're talking about someone that is kind of like refined, like I've always found Lex Luthor to just kind of be this like, I don't know, very refined almost like Kingpin.
Yeah.
Except less violent.
Yeah.
Which is when I think like Peter Dinklage does such a good job in Game of Thrones of being someone that's really intelligent and kind of almost kind of cutthroat in that sense.
Yeah, there's such a good element of Lex Luthor is the kind of jealousy and hatred he has for Superman. I feel like Dinklage could sell that, as long as he doesn't have to try and do a British accent.
Well, you see, guys, send us your questions. You get a 45-minute response. This is the most authentic podcast.
This is the show now.
Get your questions.
We're just going to do fan
in.
casting from here on in.
Send us all. If you want X-Men, Harry Potter, send them in. We'll do it. We have a lot of fun with this stuff, and we spend too much time on it, but it's all okay.
Hit me up if you want to hear every other DC character, because I've got them.